You're watching the Horror Scouts podcast, and we're about to review Insidious, The Red Door. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Mike. I am one of your hosts and troop leaders, and I am joined, as always, by your other two hosts and troop leaders, Brian.
Hello.
And Nick.
Howdy.
You're checking us out in one of two ways right now. You're either watching us on YouTube at youtube.com/@horrorscouts or listening to the audio version on your podcast service of choice. Just a little warning for anybody who's new here. All of our reviews here have spoilers in them. So if you don't want anything ruined for Insidious, The Red Door, go check it out and then come on back and have a listen to what we have to say. Yeah. Okay. We're in it. Back at it. Another episode. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Can't complain.
How are you? We never ask you. You ask us every time.
Yeah, what the hell? I'm good. I had a very funny interaction today that's, I guess, somewhat horror related in that I was walking my dog around the block. I have a very small dog. She's about 12 pounds. And we're coming around the corner, and one of my neighbor's kids, the youngest, who's like 5, I guess, is out front of his house by himself, crawling on all fours, wearing a werewolf mask. So my first thought is, this is awesome. My second thought is, what is my dog going to do?
Yeah.
Because my dog doesn't usually like other dogs and freaks the fuck out and like screams. Like she gets all worked up and ends up screaming. And she was like, what is that? Bring me over to it right now.
Really?
Yeah. So we walked over and the kid could like barely see us because it's, you know, it's a cheap mask with like bad eye holes and stuff. But I guess he heard me coming because I was like talking to my dog. I was like, oh, what's that? What's that? And he like played along and he like started like, you know, doing these like little lunges at her and stuff. And she'd back up and she'd want to come in and sniff his face. And she didn't know what was going on. And then he ended up taking the mask off. She was like, okay, I thought there was a person in there. It was freaking adorable and also very random to just see a child by himself.
Yeah. In a werewolf mask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, that's pretty cool. Like, what are you getting ready for Halloween? It's like, no, Halloween's not yet. We just have this. I was like, well, okay, that's fair enough.
Okay.
And then he just played with my dog for a little bit, but that was a fun, unexpected interaction.
Yeah.
And very unexpected the way Molly reacted. I'm glad she didn't I mean, I knew she wouldn't attack him, but
right.
Yeah. It was pretty funny.
I feel like she couldn't do too much damage if she attacked anyway.
No, she's a pipsqueak. Anything going on with you guys? Or I do have a little bit of news this episode.
Sweet. Good. Because I got nothing.
I saw Talk to Me on
You
Tuesday.
did?
Did.
Okay. Give us the quick lowdown.
It was okay. I thought. I guess I got a little bit hyped based on I guess some other hype, and it's solid. There's some really great there's some good gags in there and good bits of tension and a little bit of hopelessness around the main character that gives it a certain darkness, but I felt it's not as unique as it thought it was, or wanted it to be, and I feel it's a very modern horror movie thing that they break the tension too much. You get super intense moment, it hits high, and then the next scene is like, okay, calm it down a little bit, and then the whole movie goes like this, and it felt like the scary moments didn't ramp up, like they were all equal levels. So by the end of the movie, you're not like shaking or anything, you know, like you just need to like run tension. But it was good. I would definitely recommend watching it. renting it maybe, but I don't go run out and spend $17 to see it in the theater.
Okay. Good to know.
Also, for not really a spoiler, but for anyone like me who doesn't like things happening to eyes, there's a scene.
Okay.
It's in the movie somewhere. That's all I'm going to tell
Good.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually you get out pretty scot-free on that, on the neck thing.
Impossible. There's never been a movie that doesn't have a neck thing.
There's other traumas happening that are cringy, but I don't think there's a neck thing. Or it may just didn't affect me at all. So
right. Yeah, you didn't notice.
I really don't think there was. Yeah, it was solid. Next, I'm going to try to get my buddy to go see The Last Voyage of the Dementor, because I'm interested in that one.
Yeah, I saw some not
Yeah.
glowing
Box
reviews.
office flop.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I thought, Mike, you were saying there were some good things. Weren't you the one last time we recorded saying something good about it?
I mean, I was intrigued, and like I was, like I don't know. There's parts of it that seem like because like with the whole ad campaign, like Dracula's just in full view, and it's kind of not that. You're not going to go in with that. Oh, I don't know what it's going to look like, and they're going to hold back. So that kind of ruins it. But also the story seemed very interesting to me, and like the fact that I think I might have said, I don't know if I said it on the show or somebody else, that Doug Jones was Dracula, but I was wrong. It's Javier Bodet.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm like mixed on it, but yeah, it only raked in like 4 to 7 million or something.
It's funny.
Yeah, I feel like I read a review, I can't remember from who, that praised it as being like really, really well done.
Bloody disgusting.
So that's the only.
Yeah.
That might have been the line I was reading. Like that's the only feedback that I've seen from it from a critical point of view. But then I like literally before sitting on this phone call was scrolling through my news app and like got a box office bomb for that movie with like it raked in like $4 million or $7 million or something, and it cost 41 mil to make. And like not really great. But I mean, just because people didn't go see it doesn't mean it was a bad movie.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. For what it's worth, it holds a 6.5 currently on IMDb with about almost 4,000 reviews, which is about
it could be worse.
It's almost a full point better than the movie we're about to review. Take that again. Take it for what it's worth. But yeah, maybe I'll read a little more then. Again, I try to go on Tuesdays when it's cheaper at the theaters, no matter what. Maybe I'll go see Ninja Turtles first. I still haven't gotten to that.
So that's the thing. There's a lot of competition in the theater right now.
Right.
Between Turtles and Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Right, but I feel like Turtles and Last Voyage are not competing for most of the same audience.
True.
Like, I'm probably in that minority that overlaps.
Yeah.
That's true. I would push back on, well, no, it's not pushing back. I would think that maybe people who are slightly budget conscious that fell into the hype of seeing both Barbie and Oppenheimer are like, okay, I don't go to the movies all the time, but I just spent, $35 on these two movies in the last month. Maybe I don't need to go see the Dracula movie right now.
Right, exactly.
Like,
yeah, that's it. I think the same thing was happening with Haunted Mansion. Like,
oh, right.
Yeah, that was the other huge flop lately.
But I haven't heard anything particularly. I know the meta score is a little lower, but I haven't actually read anything particularly bad about it, and it's certainly a lot better than the last version. But it came out the week after Barbie and Oppenheimer, so what did you expect?
Bad release time.
Yeah. Even if it was a really good movie, again, I'm not going in there with super high expectations. But again, want to see it, might do it for a $7 Tuesday.
Yeah, why not?
Right.
Totally. Yeah. So actually that'll lead into, your talk of Talk to Me will lead into my first little bit of news. We don't do news much on the show anymore because who knows how long it takes me to edit an episode, and news is out of date by the time it goes out. But I just had a couple of things I thought were interesting. I jotted it down. And so speaking of Talk to Me, and we all called it, A24 tweeted out that the replica of the hand is coming to the A24 online store. No date, but it's obviously coming.
So, I can piggyback off that. Also today announced by Umbrella Entertainment, who's based out of Australia, they're releasing a deluxe edition of the movie with 4K steelbook, blah, 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 but it comes with a replica of the hand, but the hand doesn't have any writing on it. It's blank, and they give you like a paint pen to do it yourself.
Okay.
And that has come to very mixed reviews from people I follow. It's like, oh, it's kind of cool. Like, it's a neat idea. 'Cause apparently, it looks like names are written on it, though I don't remember that being discussed in the movie, but whatever. But someone else was like, that's just fucking lazy. Like, just pay to have it printed on there and charge $5 more. Like, don't give me a paint pen, because I'm not going to sit there and decorate it to be even remotely near the movie thing. And who just wants a plain hand? That's not what's in the movie at all. It's never bare. I was like, I see it as gimmicky, but I also see the point of, yeah, that is kind of lazy.
Yeah, like they just bought a lot of mannequin hands and they're just going to box them up. And
Right. So I'm hoping that, and slash assuming A24's version is going to be the actual movie replica, not like just a hand.
Yeah, the video they showed was like what looked like to be the one from the movie with just a hand coming in to like grab it, and that was it.
Nice.
So
that's cool.
Another thing I'm excited about, and because we have reviewed one of his shows before, Mike Flanagan's The Fall of the House of Usher has got a release date, and it's coming October 12th.
Nice.
The day before our dear Brian's birthday.
Woo.
And the little quote I pulled is, in this wicked 8-episode limited series based on the works of Edgar Allan Poe, ruthless siblings Roderick and Madeline Usher have built Fortunato Pharmaceuticals into an empire of wealth, privilege, and power. But past secrets come to light when the heirs to the Usher dynasty start dying at the hands of a mysterious woman from their youth. So, and I think I read somewhere that this might be the last thing in like Flanagan's deal with Netflix.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm not saying he won't do more, but I think he's got something planned with Amazon. So he might be exploring other avenues. But yeah, very excited for that to finally come out. Because I didn't check out Midnight Club. Did you see that, Nick?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I never ended up checking that out. So it's been a while for me since I've seen a Flanagan show.
It's very good. You should watch it.
Okay. Cool. And the last thing, this is just fun. Toxic Avenger. We've got new news about it.
Right.
I forgot that this was a thing, that they were like remaking it or rebooting it. So the polls I have here, and this must have come from Bloody Disgusting. Troma says, while the original film followed the fate of Melvin Ferd Junko III, who goes from zero to toxic hero in a case of bullying gone awry, Macon Blair's contemporary take follows a hideously deformed creature of superhuman size and strength all his own. So Peter Dinklage stars as downtrodden janitor Winston Goose, who, after falling into a vat of toxic waste, becomes none other than the Toxic Avenger. This timely reimagining is up to its eyeballs environmental themes, as Winston goes up against the evil forces of greed and corruption to save his son, his friends, and his community. And the official synopsis also notes, even as this story exists on its own terms, the spirit undoubtedly remains connected to the original. Troma fans old and new will be pleased to know that the film has been rated R for violence and gore, as per Troma tradition. And
you lost me on the heavy environmental themes. Like, I don't mind a message, but if you're telling me outright there's heavy environmental themes and they're going up against like greed and corporate tyranny or whatever that quote was, like,
yeah,
there's not going to be subtlety if you're advertising that. So, but I'm looking at the cast and like, holy crap.
Yeah, that was the last thing I had here. Peter Dinklage, Elijah Wood, Julie Davis, Taylor Page, Kevin Bacon, Jacob Tremblay.
Jane Levy does a voice.
Oh, nice.
Apparently. It's like, oh, I wish she was actually in the movie, but sure.
Yeah.
That's pretty legit.
Yeah. And they released like one photo of like, a backlit silhouette of like him walking through a door or something.
Yeah. I'll wait to hear some feedback before I commit to that.
Oh yeah. I'm very excited for a trailer to eventually drop. All right. So with that all wrapped up, we got a lot to discuss because we kind of have to backtrack in a movie series a little bit to give some context. So let's move on to our review of Insidious, The Red Door. This one was written by Lee Whannell and Scott Teems, directed by first-time director and star of the film Patrick Wilson. And the main cast is Ty Simpkins as Dalton, Patrick Wilson as Josh, his dad, Sinclair Daniel as a new character Chris, and Rose Byrne returning as the mother Renee. Synopsis is Josh Lambert heads east to drop his son Dalton off at school. However, Dalton's college dorm soon becomes a living nightmare when the repressed demons of his past suddenly return to haunt them both. And just to note that this marks the 5th film in the franchise, yet this is the 3rd film that focuses on the Lambert family. So movies 3 and 4, chapter 3 and The Last Key were prequels technically to the whole story. So this is wrapping up what took place in 1 and 2. So first order of business, yay, nay, or just okay?
Nay.
Yeah, more like the red boar.
We'll just end it right there. That's great. Yeah. Clip it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a good way to explain this. Oh, my dog needs her medicine. Sorry.
That's more important.
Yeah.
So.
Paula will take care
Those
of it.
things are.
She needs her strength to fight all the werewolves on our street. This franchise. So I was going to say that I think the easiest thing you could say is this franchise has, and I know Nick has not been a fan since the beginning, but this has outworn its welcome and it's just stale at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say I think the first one was good. It's like 13 years ago now. And at the time it was more fresh. I thought it was well done. Ty West was starting to show his style. Acting was in it. It was a little different that the house isn't haunted. Their take on it was good. I thought that was a solid movie. The second one I watched, I remember being like, what the fuck? And I don't know if I had watched it again up until this week. And I still sit there with, what the fuck? Because it could have been an almost as good movie, except they don't explain the further. And that was my biggest hang up then. It's still a hang up now and feeds into this movie is how does that place work and why? Like they don't explain enough of it ever. And actually it goes so far to explain part 2 a little bit better in The Red Door in a clip. I'll get to in a sec, but like the first movie they go into the further, and at some point Josh is in their own house. So watching that, and he's obviously in pitch black, and he ends up in the demon's lair, right? But when they're in their own house, I always assumed that was the perspective of the astral body, right? In the second one, they do that again, but then they also show them going to other places and time. Yes. Now, there's 2 problems. One is the time loop, which they never explain. And that's a big fucking problem. Because they make it like, oh, look at this. The events from the first movie are actually affected by astral projections
from the second movie influences the setup for the beginning of the first movie.
Yeah.
Right. What?
Yeah.
And then which also affect the first movie actually affects the intro to the second movie, right? But then it also projections from the normal time in the second movie go back to the first movie with the invasion of the house and stuff. Like, they just don't explain how that works ever. The other half of that is, so in the second movie they fight off the Black Bride. You find out it, and then there's his or memory of his evil mother, right? That's kind of pulling the strings, I guess. And so there's a point where Elise tells Parker, the child version of Parker, who is the Black Bride, to help me destroy the memories of her, it will set you free. So it's like, okay, so the place that they're at, is this old time or is it a memory? And either way, how? Like, they never stated memories live here, which brings us to the Red Door. There's a scene where Dalton and Chris are watching YouTube videos because they find Tucker and Specs doing some online video thing, that was cute. They click on this video of Elise, and she changes her spiel on what the further is. In the first movie, she says it's a world beyond our own. It's all around. It's a place without time as we know it. A dark realm filled with tortured souls of the dead, a place not meant for the living. This time, she actually says that the tortured souls are, I should have written down the actual quote, but the tortured souls are left to live out their worst memories for all eternity. It's like, okay, now you just explained part of part two.
Right.
Right. But then later in this movie, which I'm sure we'll get to, they bring up some other bullshit for how the further works in this movie that they still don't explain. So, like, lore, man. Like, I know Nick's usually the keeper of the lore books here. But how can you just put all this in the movie without any explanation and expect us to take it? And I'm surprised at how many people took it as I'm looking through Letterboxd and just trying to find somebody who mentioned this in the review. And a couple dozen in, nobody brought it up. They're all shitting on the movie.
Right. I got a whole bunch of negative reviews on, just reading through the comments on the Red Door on IMDb. But a lot of people aren't complaining about the lore. They're complaining about the acting. They're complaining about directing. They're complaining about just lack of jump scares or cheap feeling jump scares, but not about like, hey, what the fuck happened?
I thought the acting was okay. The direction was maybe not as good. The story was pointless.
I will say the acting, I mean, Patrick Wilson isn't like the greatest actor of our generation anyways, but I will say I think he stretched himself too thin trying to direct and be the star in it.
That's fair.
Because he came off very flat. I feel like he needs an outside voice being like, hey, do that again, but give me more whatever.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because his performance in particular came off a little like, when he's having that scene with Renee, when she's telling him, oh yeah, you brainwashed yourself a decade ago. And he's like, angry and flipping out about it. It's very like, it's such a flat, like, I'm mad now type performance. And it's not convincing at all. Yeah.
I think Chris was the best part of this movie. She felt genuine.
Fresh and new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, also, she was way too just on board to go along with whatever his ridiculous bullshit was without questioning it very much. Which, like, she owes him nothing. He's a stranger. And she's just like, oh, take me through your trauma and let me go wander around with you. I believe in demons now. It's just like, come on. If you walked in freshman year and fucking Rob pulled that shit on you, you would have been like, yeah, okay, new room. Later, dude.
Yeah. I mean,
no chance.
Her character was a bit much. I mean, first note I wrote was like, she's intense. And then, they're just like, I'm going to buy into whatever, like, I guess plays off of that. But her portraying that character was good.
Right? Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah. She did a good job. Sure. She was definitely the replacement, comedic. What's the phrase I'm looking for?
Relief.
Yeah, the comic relief, because Specs and what's his face weren't there. It was just a quick cameo.
Right.
But I think in the first two films, Specs and the other guy, yes, they were the comedic relief, but it wasn't that much. And
Right.
her was more consistent,
Mhm.
and that affects the whole. Well, the tone of this movie sucked. There wasn't that many
Mhm.
scares. Like it, and like Brian, you were saying with Talk to Me, like it creates these huge jumps in
Yeah.
tone and totally destroys the tension when every other scene it's her cracking jokes and like, you know, busting Dalton's chops or whatever. So I don't know if the writing of that was the right decision
I agree.
as far
I
as
mean,
flow goes.
the tone in here is, it does fall, I guess, follow a bit more that pattern. Like I said, Talk to Me. It's much more drastic in Insidious, Red Door, than it is in Talk to Me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Well, also, I mean, they're literally, you know, we say a lot of times with requels or, you know, late sequels, whatever they are, we want to call
Mm-hmm.
them, that there's no point. This one, I feel that there was truly no point in the story, because it resolves to the point where, had we not seen this movie, we would have assumed the characters were just as well off. Like,
Right.
if anything, Renee and Foster are better off after this movie compared to Josh and Dalton, because now they can stop living the lie. Like, the truth is out there in the open, and you don't have to keep telling Foster, "Oh, that's not a real memory of yours." Like, it is. But like, yeah, they have a resolution, and everyone's supposed to be all peachy keen now, and like, oh, we once again got rid of our demons, literally.
Yeah, and it's like bringing back the demon from the first one, and it's just, oh, his face looks like it's charred now compared to the last time we saw him, and
Yeah.
there's no sense of fear or threat from this thing.
No, it felt very much like they just wanted to reuse some costumes that they had again, because like we get it's flashbacks. It's like it's retelling the story of the first two. You're seeing the fucking deranged serial killer bride again. You're seeing Darth Maul pop up in the background. It's just like, what the fuck? Like, give us anything new, and you don't get it. You're just getting rehashed characters with like no context, no further backstory as to why the demons are possessing them, how they travel through the further, how anything is impacted, how time and space work. And like, I don't remember the first two movies that well. It's been a long time. I did not go back and rewatch them, surprising absolutely nobody on this call. Could the non-possessed people see the demons in the earlier movies?
Yeah, because like Rose saw the figure in the baby's bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, because like that, the scene towards the end of this. Sorry, we're jumping around like
That's
crazy
fine.
tonight. But the scene in the end of this where Dalton is waylaid in the further, and Chris is trying to wake him up IRL, and there's just like random extra zombie ghouls like pulling at her and attacking. It's like, where did they come from? They just manifested from nowhere. They weren't possessed other people. They were just like, she's just now seeing them and being attacked by them with absolutely no warning. They're like, oh, we need to up the stakes in reality, but we just established that the demon that was possessing him is now going back to the astral plane to fight him there. So we just have to introduce these two new ones that are there. And I didn't remember non-possessed people seeing the demons from the first movie, that I was just like, what the fuck? That's totally rule breaking, but I guess it's not. So never mind.
Yeah, it wasn't rule breaking, but so the way it was, they explained the first one is like everyone's trying to get into the empty vessel, yet it was red-faced demon that was working the hardest. But here, not so much. Like, he was working hard to like trap the spirit, but he clearly wasn't trying to get to the vessel, because all the contortionists that came out of the dorm room were somehow closest, and trying to get into the body. But
yeah, and of course they had to be contortionists. Like, you can't just have people crawling towards him.
they were one step away from clicking and popping like the robots I hate so
but
much.
they didn't. They didn't.
They were very close. Like I kept waiting for that when they moved, but they didn't. They just were weird shaped. But yeah, fuck that.
Well, you also in this movie with Josh, he brings up early on, because it plays into this plot point I'm getting to, that about his father and how his father abandoned him, and my father was never there, and like this.
God, every fucking line.
But this never came up. His father was never mentioned in the first two movies. Like clearly he wasn't. I mean, he wasn't there. I don't know if they even said he was dead or left. They might have said that, but it wasn't a plot point. Now all of a sudden, this is affecting his life, and maybe the viewer can justify, or the writers can justify, he's blaming that for his fogginess and whatever. Like that's what comes to his head as a problem. I don't fucking know.
Well, he's going to therapy now, so maybe therapy has unearthed this suppressed.
But no, he wasn't going to therapy. That's what Dalton asked. Are you seeing something? Right. So
yeah, right.
The problem is the whole father plot point adds nothing. We know he doesn't have his father wasn't around for some part of this, or even when he was younger. We also know that you can pass off this astral projection to your children, as proven by him and Dalton. And we know Lorraine, his mother, couldn't do it. So therefore, we could just assume he got it from his father, if you think about it for 4 seconds. So the whole found his box, and he found his father killed himself and seeing things in the psych ward, whatever the fuck it was. I feel like the entire point of that stupid arc and investigation was for them to get him and Renee on the couch for the aforementioned, the reason you're foggy is because we all agreed you should forget about this year of your life, and it kind of backfired a little bit. And that was how to bring that up, like why you're not like your father, It's like you made an entire investigation subplot that bared no new information that affected you or the story. It brought in another ghost, I guess, but like you couldn't find another way to get to the conversation. I mean, you could have a distant relationship with your son because you're divorced from his mother and he's resentful, or maybe you're busy with your teaching job or whatever the hell it is, and you aren't around a lot because you're just a schmuck. I don't know. You don't need the whole father fault. You know, it's your father daddy issues.
Right.
Stupid.
Yeah.
And then the other part of half the movie is Dalton trying to figure out what's going on, but the viewer knows already. Like, we know why this is happening to you. Of course, it took 9 years and a teacher to count down with your eyes closed.
Right. And say we don't know why exactly because it's never really explained. But yeah, that like the impetus for how this kicks off after a decade was just like, fucking really? Somebody said close your eyes and let your mind wander. He's literally never done that in a decade. He's never just gone like blank slate and been like, oh yeah, demons. Like, what? Come on. And then as soon as he thinks of it, so does Josh 1,000 miles away. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, there was way too much convenient. Oh, anybody can just count down and hypnotize you and trigger this stuff and totally negating.
Yeah. Oh, Chris, who's never done it before. Yeah. But like also the whole art thing that unlocks this demon door starts, when you're introduced to this new wavy teacher, total badass teacher. She tells them to pull out like their most impressive work that's going to impress her, and then tells the kid to tear it up. And he won't do it. She kicks him out of class. And Dalton does, showing he's not, committed to the art, but committed to the process and the learning. Bullshit, college, whatever. But like, sorry. Like, so the solution is presented right there at the beginning. Get rid of the painting. If the actual physical manifestation of painting a door is what is unlocking this and making it possible, instead of, I don't know, maybe continuing to paint the door the entire time, you could just rip it up and delete your art as you did before.
Well,
but instead we get to the very end and then he just paints over it. It's like, okay, so clearly removing it works.
So here's the thing. Until that final point, we don't know that the painting itself is the problem. It's the repressed memory. He's painting what he sees.
Right. I guess my bigger problem is like, this is clearly causing him some problems. So instead of like, destroying it because it's unsettling and he doesn't like it, or, throwing a fucking bedsheet over it and tucking it under his bed, he hangs it on his goddamn wall. Like, hey, here's a thing that unlocked a horrible memory of my dad trying to murder me with a claw hammer. I know what I should do. Put it up on my fucking bed. Cool.
Yeah. Well, there's that. And then to what you mentioned, how the finale of it, where he paints it black and it closes the door.
I almost hurt myself rolling my eyes that hard.
Oh my God. Yeah. I was so angry. I was like, seriously? That's our result of this. I mean, they made a small implication of the connection with the hammer, right? Because the hammer, for some unexplained reason, pops out of the painting in a way where he can grab it.
And the only good visual in the entire movie.
That was a cool effect.
The hammer becomes tangible.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, sure. And then you let that go because at that point, why not? But the fucking, we'll just paint. And he's doing it with a 1-inch brush? Like,
right? Just
throw the fucking thing at the door.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like, I don't know, reach in with a key and lock it. Clearly things can come and go through this canvas. Maybe pull your fucking dad out.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, there was a certain lack of tension with that. Hopefully he'll paint it fast enough. It's like, take the can, fucking throw it,
pour it on it.
And then the really ham-fisted line of where Chris says we should like burn this thing or get rid of it, and he goes like,
"Yeah,
no, we need to remember it, even the bad memories," or something stupid like that. It's like,
yeah,
you need to remember, but something tells me unless you go through a lot of fucking therapy, you're not forgetting this scenario. Maybe burn the painting, just tear it in quarters, whatever. You're either going to make 4 doors, which oops, or it actually just destroys it.
Right. Yeah, and like, how does that context work for the rest of the series? Where like these demons are trying to get out of here and attack you. They come through this passageway. They come through somehow that's not really clear. Call it a door or whatever. And all you have to do is delete the door, and then they can't come through, and you're safe forever now.
So that door was.
What's that resolution?
The door, I believe, was only to the red-faced demon's place. Like, that's not the door to the further. I think that's what I would call it. So they trapped like the really bad demon. They didn't just close off the further. But yeah, it seems like a lame resolution to that. Like, he can't find. That's the only way for him to get out. It seems a little weird. Before the painting scenario, when Josh is trying to hold the door closed, he's telling Dalton, "No, go."
Mm-hmm.
What was his plan? Was his spirit just going to sit there and hold the door closed for all eternity? Because if that door opened up and the demon got him, Dalton's not safe anymore. Like,
right.
What are you telling him to do? So, okay, his spirit's out of there, but like clearly we know that the evil spirit can get out of the further. So like what was that plan?
Yeah, like that would have worked in the first movie when it's like, okay, once you're back in your body, you're safe and don't travel anymore. But
I mean, that is kind of true, right? I guess if you don't leave your body, but he has to consciously not do that.
Well, he's so good.
I'm not sure how people come back from the further still. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, yeah, this ties back to what we were saying at the very beginning of the review with the whole like rules of the further and everything. Like in this movie, it's just like Dalton's just using it like a tool and like, oh, I'm just going to become a poltergeist.
Yeah.
And use it to my advantage in the freaking frat house and everything. And it's like, no, that's not how this was all set up at all.
Well, that.
Which,
go ahead.
No, we're probably about to say the same thing. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that goes back to my original thing. Like, are the places in the further? Are they memories, or is it like the upside down, only where things still happen? Because if
It's that.
but it's not
I
supposed to
think.
be. Right.
Right. Right. The issue that I also have with that is, okay, frat house. Dalton has to go to the frat house, then find a cozy corner to fall asleep, get hypnotized by Chris so he can slip into the further, and then go to frat bro Nick's like penthouse room to do whatever he's going to do up there.
Mm-hmm.
But like we see him in the further, like in the frat house going through to get there. He's like going to the physical location IRL,
Mm-hmm.
getting hypnotized, and then starting there and going to where he's going to be.
Right.
Keep that in your mind. Now we're going to go all the way back across the country to Josh, who's like, my son is in trouble. Quick, hypnotize me. I'm going to show up in his fucking dorm room.
Yeah.
So did you get in your car in the further and drive 1,000 miles?
Yeah.
Or how did you just show up there instantaneously? Because that doesn't track.
So I'm not trying to do the movie any favors, but I think the way Josh did it is shown in at least the second movie, right? Because in the second movie, they go to Parker's house back when he was a kid, and I think when he was an adult, and Josh was never actually there, and then Elise and other dude, Colin, I think his name was, the guy with the beard from the beginning of this movie.
The fake beard.
They all go there through the further. They weren't actually in the house. So you can travel to other places through the further. Dalton probably doesn't know that, is my guess, because we never see him in another location in this movie. So I'm chalking that up to him not getting it.
Okay. Counterpoint.
Okay.
Josh wouldn't remember that either. He's been brainwashed to forget the further exists until right this very minute. And he's like, quick, hypnotize me. I've got to save my boy. And just does it.
That's fair.
If it takes practice and knowledge of it, neither of them have it. They're both blank slate.
Yep. All right. Yep.
Yeah.
I like
you win.
Because you're right. It makes sense. But within the context of its own movie,
It doesn't.
They present a case and then immediately refute it.
Yep.
And have some sort of consistency. I get retconning something from 13 fucking years ago or whatever, and like, oh, that doesn't quite line up. But like, you established a rule for it in this movie and then broke it immediately. Like, pick one, man. Can't do both.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, I could see how, because, the further is either you go to these actual places like the Upside Down, but then there's also that black space, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
like you have the lantern and you can't see where you're going. And like, okay, maybe that's the, like, the bus terminal, you can go there and then go to anywhere you want. But from the first two movies, it establishes that, like, if you're in there, the only thing that ever guides people where they need to go is hearing someone's voice in the real world, like reaching out to them, like, go to the light, Carol Ann, don't go to the light,
Yeah.
But you can't just walk in there and just spin around 3 times and say, yeah, my boy is that way. Like,
right. They also, the whole location thing, I said that the clip of Elise somewhat fixes in part 2, the whole, they're trapped in their memories, right? It doesn't explain in that movie, the type, like, why places still exist there if they're not a memory. For instance, the events from the first movie that we see in the further during the second movie. It's a lot to try to say.
Yeah.
But, so in the first movie, the door gets swung open and the alarm goes off in the house, whatever. We find out in Insidious 2 that was because Astral Josh from the second movie did that. Again, time loop not explained, but if the places are supposed to be the memories of the tortured souls, nobody there was dead, including Josh. And they say he's not a place for the living. That is a memory of a living soul. And so is it just anybody's memory comes to exist there? Like, it doesn't, like, Also, he's having a memory and also interacting with it back in present time.
Ow.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ow is right. So in this movie, you have the dorm room. So this is clearly Pukey Ghost. I don't know. Remember if he had a name. He did have a name. They said rest in peace, whatever. But Pukey Ghost, he's living his worst memory there. And at least we know Dalton exists in this location and can see the ghost in that location. Like, that makes sense to have to be there. And you have somebody's memory to go to. It's not...
Mm-hmm.
He's not going back to his childhood house when, like, he was there. Like, thank God they didn't try to do that shit. Well, no, I take that back. They did. So...
Yeah.
Only they showed it differently. So instead of showing in astral view or further view in the blue, they show it in real, like, full color, him watching the events unfold and tackling his dad, maybe?
Because it's convenient. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and also, like, the black void space is still something I don't really understand. So that's the between, right? That's like the purgatory between here and the further.
I thought that was the further.
Well, but, like, it's not like the upside down version of the further where you're in a physical space. It's just nothing. So it's the further, but it's like the gateway portion of the further that, you know, you need to hear somebody to call you out of, which even at that, like, when they're all calling to Dalton in earlier movies, he can't find his way out and you need Josh to go in and find him. In this movie, as soon as Chris is in trouble and Dalton's, like, at the door with his dad and hears her, he's like, "Oh, peace, dude." And, like, he's just, like, back in his body. But, like, so that black void area, we're saying after the door goes, I'm pretty sure I got my order of operations here. If not, it doesn't really matter. After the door goes away and Josh is just alone, he's just in a black void by himself. He, like, manifests that little box with photos of his dad in it. It's just like, oh, this is conveniently now in my pocket. Here it is. I got this thing. Kind of like how everybody magically has a lantern in there. So, like, if you can just manifest whatever the fuck you want, why would you not just, like, make it Disneyland? Like, you can do whatever. If it's, like, things from your memory, I've had some decent memories too. And clearly I can just manifest shit out of thin air here.
But I don't know if you can manifest things out of thin air. Wouldn't it have been in his pocket already in the real world? And that's why it was there? I don't
think it was.
I don't know.
I don't think that was in his pocket.
I mean, it should have been, because they haven't otherwise shown you can manifest things. They showed you can bring things in. For instance, in the second movie, when Dalton goes in with the can tethered around his waist, like, the can is there. He doesn't use it for anything besides to get home, but it's there. I think you're just given a lantern upon entrance if you're a living soul. Like, no one's holding a lantern when they're...
Right, when they go in.
They go in.
Yeah.
But he sets the box down to leave it behind, and it disappears.
Yeah.
In this.
Yeah.
Like, and then his dad shows up. So, like, I truly don't know. Like, the rules in there are very ambiguous, and it feels like you can kind of manifest a will of some sort, and, like, I don't know, maybe exert something positive in there, like a light bulb.
Or a door lock, or...
Yeah.
A weapon of some sort. I mean, they had the hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was rough. It was boring, and then also made less sense than the others.
Plot aside, I think we've thoroughly picked this apart because the plot is terrible. Did you guys feel like you were watching a fucking Shudder movie for a decent chunk of this? Was, like, the black too goddamn black?
The bandwidth was low. Definitely.
Like, watching it at full high res with every light in my house off, like, I felt like I was watching Skinamarink with fucking Darth Maul or the guitar player from Mudvayne in it every now and then. It just, like, it was blackness of indecipherableness and then random demon guy once in a while.
I didn't think it got as bad as Shudder does. And I thought the day scenes looked really nice, but you could tell as soon as it dimmed, you saw the crushing. And I actually wrote down that the bandwidth that allowed for this, not bandwidth, the bit rate was shit. And I think that, I don't know if that's on Amazon or that's on Blumhouse or whatever studio provides it, because, man, I understand $20 is intended for multiple people to be watching it, as was our case, but like, make it worthwhile, man. Like, come on.
Yeah, it was too dark to just like the contortionists were like, I didn't really need to see them better than I did to get the point of what was going on, but like I felt myself straining at my screen to see what the hell was happening, and that was not the only scene where she's like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, I wonder if your settings were tweaked, because mine wasn't that bad. I mean, there was definitely some black brushes and stuff, but I think you need to check your Plex,
all right,
Plex
I'll
settings.
check my settings again, because it was
because if you put it to original quality, you should have been better. But again, it's still not what it should have been. Yeah. So, the one thing we didn't mention yet was the very end scene. Well, there's two end scenes. The end of the movie where he sees Elise in the street, and like she looks familiar now. So clearly his memory didn't fully come back, right? Like it doesn't because and then she's gone, and he kind of like smirks, and it's like unnecessary. Like, we know she's a ghost. Like, we saw her. You managed to throw her into the movie from a YouTube video. Like, that's all you needed. It was a completely unnecessary scene. Yes, he knows he can talk to his mother now. He understands how this shit works, at least as much as the rest of us do. But there was also a brief after credits scene. It looks like Mike saw it. Nick didn't.
No, I did.
Oh, you did?
So
okay.
it's dumb.
I thought you were just shitting on the fact that there was one.
No, I watched it.
So, for those who haven't, I'm going to spoil it for you. They show in the further, they show the door crusted over in black paint, and the light that's above it flickers back on. So what did you put paint thinner on the door from the inside? Let it seep through the edges, and then look, I'm out. Like, please don't make another one.
He's getting stronger. You got to leave the opening for a sequel. And it's like, that implies like, oh no, the demon's getting stronger. He should have been stronger in this movie to up the ante, because he was just he was scary in the first one. And this one is just like, oh yeah, it's that guy again.
I think if there's going to be a sequel, I think what it's going to be is an origin story for the demon. But it shouldn't be. But I think if there is one, A, leave the Lamberts out of it. And B, maybe make it from the perspective of the demons or the further or something like that. Like, make it so it's the bad guy that's the main character. Because, like, how many times can you do the same thing? Like, literally the same thing, the way it works. You have to leave the vessel. They come back in, blah, blah, blah. Like, get it.
Yeah, no, this
fucking stop.
This whole story and everything's outdated. They just need to let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's run its course for sure.
I don't ever need to see Patrick Wilson being a guy who sees ghosts ever again. We've got 5 of these. I know he's not in all of them, but we've got 5 of these and fucking 5 billion Conjuring movies.
Well, he's only in 3 of them.
Stop. Yep.
It was.
I mean, he's only in 3 of them, and he's in 3 of these. So that gives him 6 movies where he's a dude who sees ghosts. Do something else. I'm done.
Yeah. It's funny. Like, I enjoy the Conjuring movies, and like, it was weird to see him, and going back and watching the first 2 of these and seeing Patrick Wilson not being just this straight across the board positive, supportive Ed Warren. But yeah,
I also think I might have been even more warrior this movie than I was already had I read the fact that, obviously, I didn't realize Patrick Wilson was the one to direct it, and I will say, of all the faults, the directing was like the least of the issues. But this was the first installment not to be written by the creator. So screenwriting duties were passed down to Scott Teems, who previously co-wrote Halloween Kills and Firestarter 2022. Yeah.
Quite the resume.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if they're writing that as a warning or just as a matter of fact or as praise. Either way, it gives off the same vibe.
Yeah.
It didn't say they wrote Halloween Ends. I didn't go look that up, but this was Kills.
So I mentioned this to Nick yesterday, but I don't know if you noticed this, Brian. One other thing, we talked about the post-credit scene, but did you catch what was happening in the first song that plays as the credits start?
It was I read what it was. It was Ghost covering another song.
Right. With guest vocals from Patrick Wilson. That first voice you hear singing is him. It's like, you're really going to do that? This is your first directing job, dude. Pump the brakes.
That fucking look on your face, Brian, as like, you're like, oh, interesting. Oh, like your face just got slack. Just watching that happen in real time was really something.
I don't know how to react to that. Like because I actually stopped the movie when he hit the credits because I was just done with this, and then I read that there was an after credit scene, so I went back and to watch the scene, and I didn't listen to the song. But yeah, pump the brakes. Yeah, that's the thing. But also, why? And did he actually record with Ghost, or did Ghost record it and they just spliced him in at some point? Like, I want to see the behind the scenes of this shit show.
Yeah, I don't know if he's like some sort of quote unquote singer in his own right. I mean, he might be, because at least for Conjuring 2, he sang in that movie. He played the guitar and sang an Elvis song to the kids. So I don't know if it's like, oh, Patrick sings, so let's work it in there somehow. So maybe he has friends in the music industry. Who knows? But yeah, that was
cool.
Paula noticed. I wouldn't have caught it, but immediately she was like, is that Patrick singing? What the fuck is happening? So weird.
There it is, performed by Ghost featuring Patrick Wilson. Who came up with that? That's the trivia I want. I want the trivia specifically on the song now.
All right.
You know, it's funny. Was this on the soundtrack? No, it wasn't, because I just listened to it, and I did not hear singing. So somehow that did make it onto the soundtrack. That's kind of sad.
Interesting.
All right. Let's move on to the yawning portion of the podcast. Okay, that's over. Now on to the next portion, which is handing out merit badges. Now, unfortunately, this is the episode where we have some new badges on the list. We're not going to fucking use them, but we have some new badges. So if you've been following us for any amount of time, we've had pretty much the same list of badges for quite some time. And I finally got around to doing some others. And it's technically splitting two separate ones into two on their own. So we took two, and now we've got four.
Brian, the yawning portion is over.
You're gonna have to wait till next episode. So we had the music badge, but we now have a music badge and a sound design badge, because they are very different things. And we also just had special effects, which usually cause some problems. So now we've split that into practical effects and digital effects. And all three of us thought there was one other one, but we couldn't remember what it was. So
if anybody else listening remembers, because we probably mention it around this time every episode.
Yeah, go drop that in the Discord.
So we've got 18 badges now, and open to doing more if we need to. So now that we have 18 to work with, what are we giving Insidious the Red Door?
I'm not.
I want to give it cringe, but not for the reason we have a cringe badge.
Am I going to have to split that one up?
That's the other badge. Yeah, cringe. The good reason, the bad reason.
Wait, you removed the sad kangaroo.
Well, it's never been on there because the design is different, but yeah, I think I hear something hopping into the room.
Yeah.
I think you do, man.
Please edit that into this episode.
Just some ominous thump, thump, thump. Yeah. I was not expecting this magnitude of dislike, and we've got ourselves a fucking sad kangaroo, folks.
Yeah.
Now, it's getting a sad kangaroo. There's no doubt about it. When's the last time we gave a sad kangaroo? Did we even give one to fucking
Nat Heidi?
Skinamarink?
No. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Skinamarink had to have gotten one.
That got
Yeah,
a sad
yeah.
kangaroo, right? Okay. I was like, I feel like we don't give them very often,
No.
but we've definitely seen worse movies.
Oh, yeah.
I did not enjoy this movie, as I think we've all made it very clear. None of us enjoyed it. But this is far from the worst movie we've watched, and it's one of very few that earns the sad kangaroo.
Yeah.
Because it just did everything not good enough.
Right. There was all the elements we could give here. Not that, like, it could have had good blood and gore and been just as shitty as we described.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I want to give it a writing and lore badge so I can take it back and rip it into shreds. 'Cause
Yeah.
they're both that
And
bad.
like, for a first-time director, Patrick didn't completely just
Shit the bed.
like sink the ship super. Like he didn't get into a tiny submarine and bolt anyway. But it's not getting, it's not like
it wasn't exceptional.
Great first-time director thing, because we usually have very good luck with that. But
yeah, they usually. I think every first-time directing thing we've watched has not been a sequel of some sort.
yes,
Right.
Or
Good
reimagining or any of those kind of things. It's all been original content.
Yeah. All right, well, sad kangaroo. Let me put in that sad kangaroo. Reminder, find thumping sound effects. All
Or
right.
Captain Kangaroo theme, like just playing in the back.
The didgeridoo or something.
Yeah.
All right, folks. That'll do it for us here on Horror Scouts. Thank you for joining us. Again, thank you for either joining us on YouTube. If you are, leave us a comment. If you watch the movie, let us know what you think. Like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Or again, thank you if you're listening on the podcast service. If you're able to leave a review there, we'd appreciate that as well. If you want to find us on the internet, we're over at Instagram at horror_scouts. And we also have a Discord. Invite link will be in the description below. So join us there if you'd like to. That'll do it. Hopefully next time will be better. And we'll see you.
I'd say it won't be worse, but like...
Shut your mouth. Don't jinx us.
Yeah.
All right, guys. See ya. Bye.